Okay, now let's look at how do we choose a project management structure. And honestly, there's not a clean answer, but let's talk about that briefly. So if I summarize the organization types we were just talking about, we had functional, okay, projects run out of the functions. We have product organization or projectized, it's run out of the projects. And then we had our matrix, and it goes anywhere from weak matrix to a strong matrix. So what do we do with those? This shows this a little bit better. So if we're looking at this here, the authority of the project manager increases with the arrow. So functional here, project manager doesn't have a whole lot to say. Projectized, project manager has stronger say. And then in between we had the weak, balanced, and strong matrix along the way. So how much authority do you want the project manager to have? Pros and cons with that. I'm not going to redo composite, but remember composite was organizations that can kind of go back and forth between the different ones. So choosing the appropriate structure. So how important is the project to the firm's success? I mean, if you're starting out in a small company and this is your one project, it's very important to that company's success. So you might be dedicated, and probably most likely you are in a small company. So you have to look at the different sizes and structures. Like I said, as you get bigger and bigger companies with lots of projects, typically it starts swinging more to the matrix. So project considerations is the size, the importance of it, novelty and need for innovation. That might want you to be very lean and mean when you're trying to do innovation. How many departments are involved? If this is, and departments are functions, think of it as functions. So how many functions are involved? If it's very limited to, I'll just say electronics, well then maybe you don't really need this projectized, let functional run it. So it might depend. What's the complexity, time constraints, and so forth. So you have to look at each of those and which way you want to go. Luckily for most of you, you're not going to be at that stage as a startup. You're going to go into an organization and they're going to have this figured out, and you're going to have to just understand what the structure is and how you fit into that structure. This, though, is a good way of looking at it. So here's the organization types: functional, project, matrix in the middle. So functional, product development effectiveness. Project's the most effective usually because it's very dedicated to that project. Matrix somewhere in between. Speed. Projectized is usually very fast, so if time to market is issue, especially if startup and you're trying to get out there, it's going to be the fastest to get out there. If you start growing projects and have different projects and you're duplicating functions in your organization, now you might start getting the cost to the corporation being more projectized, and functional you might start swinging to functional as you get bigger and bigger and more projects. Reuse, you can look at motivation of team members, things like that. So let's look at that. Team member. So here you feel very dedicated to a project. So you're very responsive to that project. But again, when it's over, where do you go? Here you're more dedicated to the functional. Again, I don't think this is a big arrow, though. People feel very dedicated to the projects they're loaned out to. And then we've talked about the one boss, and the negative with kind of the two bosses in the middle here, or even more than that if you're someone bouncing around. So you're going to have to look at it. Like I say, in most cases you're going to start out, you're going to be in an organization that has the structure set up. Try to understand that structure. But if you're in an organization and trying to figure out which way to go, it may depend on your projects or company size, project size. As you grow, you may morph these project types. But as a manager, you're going to have to understand them, and how do you work into that organization type.